Let us learn about deficit irrigation and role of soil amendments in deficit irrigation and how they aid in water saving in brief. So firstly, what is water productivity? Water productivity is nothing but the amount of dry matter, or it is a ratio where the dry matter production with respect to the quantity of water used by the plant through evapotranspiration, or simply you can state that how much biomass is produced by the plant for a unit quantity of water utilized. Matlab, for example, if 1 liter of water is used in production of 100 kg of biomass, then the water productivity will be yield by evapotranspiration, that is 100 divided by 1, so that will be 100 kg. So where y formula is yield by evapotranspiration, where y represents crop yield, etc represents seasonal crop water use or evapotranspiration. Why you have to learn about water productivity? Every crop has different water productivity levels. So our main agenda in using deficit irrigation or soil amendments in deficit irrigation is to increase this water productivity by reducing the amount of water usage. That is our agenda. So in current day agriculture, if you look at, there is more nearly 50 to 60% of the water usage is through agriculture, and rest is used by the water plant for drinking or for industrial purpose, etc. But the amount of uptake is not equivalent to the amount of intake by the soil. So we are utilizing or depleting the natural resources more than what we are giving back to the soil or groundwater or hydrological resources. So what is happening in coming future? There will be a war for water. It is said that there will be war for waters because there is water crisis everywhere. Deserts are increasing, deforestation is going on, urbanization is going on. So what is happening in resulting of this? We are reusing the agriculture drainage water for making or utilizing the water, or we are desalinating salty water which is present in the oceans, or we are illegally extracting groundwater resources for our maintenance or for our utilization. So in this context, one of our main agenda is to reduce the water usage in agriculture, but you have to make sure that yield will be maintained to feed the growing population, so that food security will be there. So under these circumstances, deficit irrigation will be one of the important tool where you can reduce water usage and you can improve or maintain the biomass production by the plant. Deficit irrigation is nothing but it's a strategy where you are going to limit water in agricultural regions to conserve water resources. Under deficit irrigation, what you are going to do, you are going to supply less water than actual evapotranspiration based on the demand and supply. Means simply based on the phenological stage of the plant, you are going to give less water or more amount of water. For example, in critical stages, you are going to give the amount of water required by the plant, and other stages like vegetative stage or in between stages where water is not that much required, under those circumstances, you are going to limit the water usage and you are going to improve the water use efficiency. So if you look at the graph between income and cost curve according to the applied irrigation water, x-axis shows irrigation water applied and y-axis shows cost and revenues. The curved line represents revenues and the straight line represents total cost. At very low irrigation, there will be loss because there will be no yield to the farmer. At this intersection point where cost and revenues are equal, after this point, you are going to start on profits. As irrigation increases, furthermore, revenue exceeds the cost and profit increases. This yellow shaded area is called as deficit irrigation window. Here slightly less irrigation than full irrigation gives better yield and better profits, and when compared to your maximum yield. In under case of maximum yield, you are going to get maximum yield but not profit when compared to this window, because in this condition you will have higher irrigation cost. Therefore maximum profit is obtained at W1 area, that is at deficit irrigation area, rather than WM, that is maximum yield. This income, equivalent income W, is point at which your profits start increasing. Okay, beyond WM also you will find W0, there where it is excess water. Because of this, what happens, costs are increased, revenue is decreased because yield will be decreased because of various reasons, water logging, etc. So too little water loss, too high water loss. So, so moderate water, that is deficit irrigation window, you are going to get maximum yield. So maximum yield does not always mean maximum profit. Deficit irrigation aims at economizing returns by applying slightly less water than full crop water requirement. If you look at the formula, crop water stress index, this is 1 minus actual evapotranspiration divided by maximum crop evapotranspiration. Whereas deficit irrigation formula, if you look at, that is 1 minus yield under deficit irrigation condition and yield under maximum evapotranspiration condition or maximum output, and is equal to Ky. This is yield response factor multiplied with 1 minus ETA by ETM, where Ky is the yield response factor, which shows relative ratio of relative yield reduction to the relative evapotranspiration deficit, where Ky is equal to relative yield reduction to the relative evapotranspiration deficit. If Ky is greater than 1, it indicates the plant is extremely sensitive to water deficiency. If Ky less than 1, the plant is more resilient to water use deficiency and it can produce yield under low water use. If Ky is equal to 1, the yield reduction is precisely proportional to the amount of water you have reduced. This is the formula for deficit irrigation, where you can calculate the yield under deficit irrigation conditions based on the Ky factor. This Ky factor will be varying from plant to plant and stage to stage. For example, in different critical stages it may be higher, or normal stage it may be lesser, and it based on the crop it is going to vary. For rice crop it is 1.1, for maize crop it is 1.2, for sorghum it is 0.8, sorry 0.9, whereas for cotton it is 0.8, rough values. Whenever you are going for application of flow irrigation, you have to consider these factors. With respect to the soil, you have to consider what kind of soil it is, what is the property of the soil, what is the structure, texture, and what level of irrigation it is. It is field capacity or it is at wilting point, etc. All these considerations should be noticed. If you look at the plant, whether it's a diseased plant or a healthy plant, or what is its response to deficit irrigation should be considered. If you look at the weather data at that particular point of time, whether it will have higher humidity or lower humidity, or the temperature is higher or the temperature is lower, based on that, for example, the temperature is higher, you can't implement deficit irrigation. Why? Because already the temperature is higher, which is leading to lower moisture at both soil and atmospheric conditions. And the fourth factor you have to consider is soil and water plant status. By looking at the leaf water status, you can understand whether the plant is turgid or it is dry. Different types of soil moisture sensors you can use, and based on that you can sense that whether the soil is drier in nature or moist in nature, and related to the plant if it is turgid in nature or drier in nature or partial turgid. All these factors should be considered, because if you go for low application of water under higher temperature conditions, automatically yield will be reduced. In the similar way, the soil is higher and hotter in nature. If you go for low irrigation, automatically that water will be evaporated. And if you consider before, if you not consider the soil and water plant status, if you go for low application, so the plant cannot retain its original structure or texture, so that yield will be increased, automatically it will be decreased. So all these factors should be considered while going for low irrigation. If you look at classification of deficit irrigation, first one is conventional deficit irrigation. In conventional deficit irrigation, what is the condition? Where you are applying irrigation always at a lower rate than the crop what is required. Applying continuous irrigation at levels below the crop water needs. So this is generally practiced under scarce conditions, highest scarce conditions. The second one is regulated deficit irrigation. In this condition, what you are going to do, you are going to change the level of irrigation based on the requirements of the crop and based on the phenological stages or growth stages of the plant. In the third case, partial root zone drying technique, what you are going to do, if it is a plant, if it is a root, half portion of the root is irrigated, the other side of the root is not irrigated. Means you are keeping half zone is wet, half zone is dry in the root zone. This is called as partial root zone drying deficit irrigation. So if you look at, this is the soil moisture regimes at different irrigation levels. Look at these pictures. In picture A, it is full irrigation where completely root zone is wetted. Here there is no deficit of irrigation. Here complete root zone is wetted. If If you look at the second zone, this is conventional deficit irrigation, means entire crop life cycle you are going to give the water at lower levels than what it is required. This is called conventional deficit irrigation. Third one, if you notice, this is partial root zone drying technique, where half portion of your root zone is dry, half portion of root zone is wet. These are different soil moisture irrigation regimes at different irrigation levels under deficit irrigation. This is partial root irrigation system. You can notice here half zone is dry, half zone is wet. Whenever it is dry, this root signals that the plant is drying, so it automatically senses ABA, which triggers partial closure of stomata. If it is higher in case, then it is complete closure, but it is half wet and half dry, so it is partial closure of stomata, which ultimately reduction in transpiration levels, so that the plant automatically reduces its shoot growth and enhance the production of fruit or sink portion. Under mild deficit conditions or control water deficit conditions, what happens? After water deficit condition, the root senses that the soil is drying. When it senses, it signals by production of ABA hormone, and this results in partial closure of stomata. When stomata is partially closed, automatically there will be lower transpiration than full irrigation. So water is saved while photosynthesis is largely maintained, because stomata is only partially closed, it is not fully closed, so that photosynthesis will be continuing, and which results in reduction of vegetative growth, leading to great allocation of sugars to the sink portion, that is fruits, and in turn which results in higher Brix ratio, good color, firmness of the fruit, and production of antioxidants, and improved water efficiency is noticed under regulated water deficit conditions or partial water deficit conditions, but not in complete water deficit condition. So if you look at this entire picture of deficit irrigation, where you are going to apply less water, then full crop evapotranspiration at different vegetative, different stages of the crop, based on this, whether it is productive stage or vegetative stage, based on that you are going to apply water while avoiding stress during critical stages, that is flowering, fruit set and fruit growth. So first response, plant response to mild water deficit. What is happening in mild water deficit? If there is water deficit, there will be triggering of ABA. This triggers ABA. This ABA synthesis will help in partial closure of stomata, so the transpiration will be reduced. Because of that, there will be still photosynthesis will be occurring, and vegetative growth will be decreased, reproductive growth will be increased, sink portion will be increased, and you are going to have more yield or similar yield when you have no deficit water conditions. So there will be no yield loss. Under this condition, you can go for deficit irrigation method. The other is hormonal and physiological responses. On the drying soil, what happens already mentioned, there will be reduction in ABA. This reduction in ABA signals stomatoregulation, partial stomatal closure, so lesser transpiration, so you are going to conserve water. If you look at the metabolic regulation, you will have gene expressions or stress responsive genes will be produced, results in production of antioxidants to reduce the reactive oxygen species, and you are going to protect the cells and maintain photosynthesis and under mild stress condition. If you look at the stomata under high water condition, this will be more turgid and there will be more transpiration losses. Under partial stomatal closure, the plant will be under regulated turgid conditions, reduced turgor changes in the guard cells, resulting in less water loss, so that water can be conserved. Under deficit irrigation condition, you will have higher sugar content. Under full irrigation, what happens? More water will be entered into the fruits. Because of that, there will be lower Brix ratio. But under deficit irrigation condition or mild stress, you will have less water in the fruit, so that there will be higher sugar concentration, resulting in higher Brix. And in similar way, there will be higher anthracene production under mild stress condition, production because of production of ABA, which senses activation of genes in production of pigments like anthocyanin, resulting in better color, and increased phenolics and antioxidants under mild stress. What happens? This reactive oxygen species will be produced under mild stress. In order to combat this plant activates its defense mechanism by producing antioxidants, so that you will find higher antioxidants, which are resulting in higher nutrient nutritional quality in case of deficit irrigation condition. You have better fruit firmness because low water, higher sugar concentration, and the fruit will be firm and you have longer shelf life. And flavor depends upon balance of sugars, organic acids, and aromatic compounds. What happens under deficit condition? There will be less dilution of water by these compounds, and you have higher carbon metabolism and enhanced synthesis of volatiles, resulting in more balanced composition of the fruit, giving better taste and aroma. If you look at the carbon partitioning shift under full irrigation, you will have more photosynthesis towards what happens, more fruits. Under fruits you will have find more water when compared to mild stress condition. If you look at the carbon partitioning, leaves will be 30%, shoots will be 30%, roots will be 10%, fruits will be 30% under full irrigation. If you look at the deficit irrigation, leaves will be 20%, shoots will be 15%, roots will be 15%, but fruits will be 50%. So higher carbon shift is towards fruits under deficit irrigation, resulting in better fruit quality and better yield or similar yield under without deficit condition of water. Why yield is maintained or slightly reduced under? Because yield is equal to fruit number into fruit size. Under full irrigation, what happens? You will have higher fruit number, longer fruit size, higher water use. Under deficit irrigation, if you are managing properly, you will have similar fruit number, slightly smaller fruit size because of less water, but lower water content or lower water use in the for production of these fruits, resulting in higher profits. So yield will be maintained 10 to 20, 0 to 10%, water saved will be 20 to 40%, and you will have higher water use efficiency. Improved water use efficiency under full irrigation, yield will be 50%, water use efficiency only 10%, but under deficit irrigation you will have nearly 13 to 14% water use efficiency with maintaining similar yield. Yield may be decreased by only 4%, but water will be increased by 30 to 40% under deficit irrigation conditions. What are the aspects you have to keep in mind? You should not go for water stress during critical stages like flowering, and you should not go for more water stress under fruit growth and carbon accumulation period. You can go for mild water stress, but you should not go for full deficit condition during fruit ripening and for reproductive flowering stages. You can go for mild deficit conditions and other stages of the crop, but during flowering you should not go for any stress. You should not go, you should go for complete irrigation for that requirement at that particular stage. These are the different research studies where you will find some 20 to 40% of water saving in different crops when you will go for deficit irrigation. You are going to find increased yield or maintenance of yield. You are going to maintain fruit color, vigor, size, maintain color quality of the fruit and firmness of the fruit, maintaining bricks ratio, and you are going to maintain taste for that fruit, and you are going to have higher nutritional content, nutritional aspects in case of deficit irrigation condition. So if deficit irrigation is keenly managed properly, if you're going to manage this condition properly, you're going to save nearly 20 to 40% of water by maintaining the physiological, chemical, biochemical properties of the plant and the sink portion, increasing water use efficiency. After taking different considerations, whether it is crop species or length and severity of water shortage, not only following the deficit irrigation process, but along with deficit irrigation, you have to follow some other water management techniques like utilizing soil amendments, which is very much important in deficit irrigation, so that these soil amendments will aid in enhancing the deficit irrigation by providing or absorbing nutrients and maintaining adequate water level in the root zone, enhancing water use efficiency. So soil amendments are nothing but these are the materials which are added to the soil which enhances physical and chemical biological properties. Okay, examples like hydrogel and bentonite, which are inorganic in nature, biochar, which is organic in nature. So this biochar is an organic compound which is prepared or made by pyrolysis method, where organic residues or agriculture residues are burnt in the presence of oxygen at a temperature of 350 to 700 degrees centigrade to make this biochar. It has high surface area and high cationic exchange, and it forms a lot of micropores in the soil, which make the soil to absorb and retain more amount of water. If you look at hydrogel or super adsorbent polymers, which are inorganic in nature, they absorb lots of amount of water and slowly release that water into the soil under dry conditions, so that plant is able to absorb in limited quantity, so that water can be saved. If you look at bentonite, bentonite is a non-toxic soil amendment which is high rich in montimolite clay. So this montimolite will help in absorbing high amount of water, since it has more amount of surface area. So effectiveness of all these amendments, whether it is biochar or hydrogel, depends upon type of soil, whether it is sandy soil or clay soil or silt loam soil, and the crop species and application method and environmental conditions existing on that particular area and that particular situation. If you look at this hydrogel, mainly it reduces irrigation water by 15 to 50% by increasing water hold capacity, and it also increases water use efficiency by 15%. It is highly used in case of sandy soils and sandy loam soils. What is its defect? It cannot be used in case of saline soils, and it degrades over time. So where you have to use it, it is mostly used in case of light texture soils where you are going for immediate water conservation strategy. If you look at bentonite, which is a clay, montimolate clay, it increases soil physical structure. Since it is a clay particle, it increases soil physical structure, it increases pore space, it reduces deep percolation levels, and improves surface irrigation efficiency. So, but what is its limitation? If you apply bentonite more, it results in compaction. Because it is a clay particle, it results in compact and reduces aeration. So, it should be applied within a limits. What is its best use? It improves under surface irrigation methods. It is best used under surface irrigation and long-term soil structure enhancement. If you look at biochar, it improves water retention, nutrient recycling, carbon emission decrease, reduction of greenhouse gases. It helps in carbon sequestration, increases microbial properties, because biochar is like a carbonish material where it will have many pores. These pores will absorb or helps in carbon sequestration. These pores will help in retaining water storage. These pores will improve soil health by increasing microbial pores. But what is its limitation? Its performance depends upon feedstock. What kind of stock? Whether you are giving acidic stock, wood ash material, or some other stock. And it also benefits limitations under water quality. For example, in saline soils, this cannot function well. Or in case of saline soils also, alkaline soils also, it cannot function well, because biochar itself a alkaline in nature. Too alkaline will result in non-performing better results. So what is its best use? In long-term usage, it helps in retention of water, and best water retention and structure can be developed under long-term usage. And it also helps in reducing carbon greenhouse gas emission reduction. So, how actually this hydrogel works? Hydrogel works by polymer swelling. Means this hydrogel will have cross linkages. These cross linkages will help in retention of more water. But these cross linkages will, whenever you are applying water, it swells, and in these swellings, this water will be retained. That is called as polymer swelling, because occurs due to cross linkages. Bentonite is a clay material. It will have more surface area, more cationic exchange capacity. Because of that, this water is absorbed and it will be swollen. Biochar is a porous carbon structure, means it is highly porous in nature. It will have mesopores and micropores. These micropores are less than 2 nanometers, and 2 to 50 nanometer pores are mesopores. These micropores are more in case of biochar. Because of this, what happens? It will have more capillary action and more cationic exchange of capacity. Okay, because of this, it is able to absorb or store more amount of water within its spaces. See, in water storage, if you look at, because of the polymer network, hydrogel is going to absorb more amount of water, and bentonite between clay layers, between, for example, this is clay particle, between these layers, interlying spaces, it is going to absorb or retain more amount of water in between the micropores. And in biochar, because of more surface area, more micropods, because of the capillary action, it is going to absorb water release based on the water potential gradient. For example, if the plant is drier, automatically there will be more uh, lesser root potential, soil water potential near root zone. But in case of hydrogel, it will be higher water potential. Because of this gradient, this water will be flowing from this hydrogel to root near root zone. Hence, roots will be absorbing water. That is how this hydrogel will be functioning. Whereas bentonite, it is because since it is a clay particle, it is based on the desorption, absorption and dryness facility. Whereas biochar, it is due to capillary release and desorption. Nutrient retention. These nutrients will be dissolved in this stored water, and this water will be absorbed by the roots, and this will be flowed to your plant body. This case of bentonite, it is because of higher cationic exchange capacity and native charged clay particle. Whereas biochar, it is due to increasing cationic exchange capacity. Soil structure, hydrogel doesn't have more influence on soil structure improvement, whereas bentonite forms good aggregates, but you should not go for higher bentonite application as it forms compaction, whereas biochar will increase porosity and increase aggregate stability. Benefits: drought buffering. So it is instant relief. Hydrogel is a instant relief where under drought conditions, if you go for application of hydrogel or so, SAPs, you are going to get instant relief. So, drought buffering. It is going to buffer. Buffer means something acting agent, which under dry conditions it acts as a giving water. Under excess conditions, it absorbs more amount of water. Bentonite. Bentonite made water retention and nutrient retention, especially in case of sandy soils. Since it's a clay particle, if you should not go for application of bentonite in a clay soil because bentonite itself a clay particle. Whereas biochar helps in long-term physical improvement by physical, chemical, and biological soil properties by increasing microbial count, by increasing porosity, by increasing surface area. It is going to absorb and retain more amount of moisture. Along with that, it has major role in greenhouse gas sequestration, carbon sequestration. Summing up of soil amendments in case of deficit irrigation, hydrogel stores water because of its cross-linked hydropolymer networks and releases water based on the water potential gradient. Bentonite improves soil structure by expanding clay, that is multimolar clay, absorbs more amount of water between its spaces, interlying spaces, increases cation exchange capacity by creating more pores and stable aggregates. Biochar improves soil because of its high porous carbonic nature, and it also helps in long-term effect by carbon sequestration, reducing greenhouse gases or sequestering greenhouse gases, increases cation exchange capacity, absorb nutrients, and increases because of its larger surface area, it able to absorb more nutrients and absorb more amount of water, and also provides a source for improving soil microbes and aid in improving the soil health. This is the references. Thank you.